on their computer networks. Details coming up shortly. And the head of the SWAT team at the National Security, DSP Samuel Azu, has told the Emil Short Commission of his readiness to provide details of the security officer who started the shooting incident at the Ayawaso West Wagon constituency by-election. DSP Samuel Azu, in charge of the SWAT team at the National Security, revealed that the National Security has some civilian operatives who have not received training in weapon and crowd control. According to him, he was present at both the shooting and assault incidents, but he did not see it until it went viral through social media. My colleague Daniel Opoku joins us for more updates. And Daniel, can you update us more on what DSP Samuel Azu said?
Right. Good afternoon to you, Osha. Now, DSP Samuel Azu is the commander in charge of the SWAT team at the National Security. And his evidence before the commission was that on the day of elections, there were 35 civilian operatives. There were those in the black T-shirts and the brown khaki, with those others in the brown vest. There were 35 civilians who were part of the national security operations for that election day. And he also agreed that those officers were officers of the national security. Again, the vehicles the men used on that day were vehicles belonging to the national security, that the SWAT department or the national security. So they own the vehicles. Those gentlemen, those civilian operatives, 35 of them are national security officers. And the question posed by the commission was what was their mandate at that particular moment? And they that they were in the residence of the NDC. They had to abort that surveillance intelligence that they said they had gathered. And the question was, why did you abort that surveillance set? And he said, because they realized that they could create problems between them and those members of those people who were in the House of the NDC parliamentary candidate. But the question was, did the elections task force know that the SWAT teams and the members were going to be present on the elections day? And this essay, Samuel Azu answered to the commission that they did not inform the election task force about their presence simply because of the intelligence that they had gathered that was stockpile of arms in the House of the NDC parliamentary candidate. Now, currently, he has been asked to furnish with the commission an action report, the post-election report, as to the happenings and the security, more or less security breaches which occurred at the Labaoleche by-elections to the commission.
Daniel, who else is making an appearance today? Now,
right after, we have Colonel Opoku, who is in charge of the national security. He will be appearing. Then, right after him, we have the General Secretary of the NPP, Mr. John Boyd, also appearing before the commission to give the evidence with regards to the happenings at the Labaoleche, the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election.
Thank you very much, Daniel Opoku. Let's now go live to the Osu Castle, where the hearings are currently ongoing.
Sometime we heard a gunshot. And
one gunshot.
There's one gunshot.
Okay.
So it attracted everybody's attention. So I asked some of the men, to drop from the vehicles and follow me to the scene. And that time when we were proceeding, I even saw the Honorable Sam George also trotting towards that direction. Lo and behold, when we turned the bend from the main building, which leads to the location where the gunshot was heard, we saw young men, heavily built young men, who were surging towards where we were coming from. Some throwing stones with gunshots in the background. To be frank, we were completely taken back because we didn't expect to see that spontaneous reaction from that group of people. So I told my men, the policemen, to give warning shots. So we also give warning shots. These men who were advancing towards us and throwing stones and firing in the air were also alarmed, and they decided to disperse and run back to the building, apparently where they came from. So they started running. While they were running, there were still gunshots at the background. So most of them were able to, because the gate which was open was a narrow one, most of them could not gain access before it was locked. So they couldn't enter. So there I said, no, I don't understand. Even I had, because I had a stone hit my shoulder bone here. It landed on my shoulder bone, but after some days of massaging, it subsided. So I said, no, I will not allow these boys to go scot-free. We will arrest them for them to answer why they should put up this behavior.
DSP Samuel Azugo is head of the SWAT team and will bring you details of this development in our subsequent bulletins. And in President Mahama peddled some falsehood per the videos he showed them concerning happenings at the Ayawaso West Wogonbai election. Addressing a news conference in Koforidua, he said his engagement with the international community sought to undermine the authority of the state.
This is unfortunate as an act of a former president of the Republic, as it is prejudicial to the work of the committee. As one who has occupied the highest office of the land, it is unthinkable that he will make pronouncements that seek to prejudice or undermine the work of a fact-finding committee at a meeting where he has invited diplomats to attend. We do not believe that in the various countries where these diplomats come from, this prejudicial conduct aimed at undermining the work of a presidential commission of inquiry will be countenanced, and it ought not to be countenanced here as well. Second, in the evidence adduced both by the police and the Electoral Commission at the ongoing commission and seen live on TV by the general public, there is no suggestion of violence at any polling station. So if the former president has any information to the contrary, government believes that the best thing to do is to bring this to the attention of the commission or the fact-finding inquiry that is ongoing, failing which would kindly encourage him to do the honorable act of withdrawing and apologizing to the people of Ghana. The government takes a very dim view of Mr. Mahama's actions and is obliged to formally put the international community on notice. They were the target of these comments that he made. We have to formally put them on notice. And in the coming days, the Foreign Ministry will write to them to disregard the falsehoods told them.
Meanwhile, former President John Mahama has hit back at government over its criticism after he met with foreign diplomats in the aftermath of the Ayawaso West Wogonbai election. He wrote on his Facebook wall that no amount of government propaganda can erase the shame created by the violence recorded during the by-election. Former President Mahama has been widely criticized after recounting the NDC's stance on the Ayawaso violence to foreign diplomats last week. Senior Minister Osafo Mafu had earlier said ex-President Mahama's action was irresponsible. And Dr. Rashid Haruna is an international relations expert. Thanks for joining us, Doc. First of all, what is your interpretation of a former president meeting up with members of the diplomatic corps to brief them on the violence in the by-election?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. I mean, first and foremost, I think what we need to do as Ghanaians, as reasonable people, is to kind of reflect on the videos that we all saw on TV, on social media, and other places. Were those people on the tactical vehicles real? Do we know who they are? Was this something that was staged? Or was it authentic and real? Were they in, uniforms and masks, carrying guns and other offensive weapons that is designed to intimidate and frighten people who were at polling stations to conduct their civic duties? These are things that we need to look at. Is this the first time this has ever happened in Ghana? why are we saying that, and also the other thing is, more importantly, the diplomatic corps. They live right here in Ghana with us. They have access to TV. They have access to social media. Everything that has been shown to them, they've already seen before. And they have their operatives also within the country. So I don't buy this idea of his former President John Dramani Mahama painting the country black. If anybody has painted the country black, it is those who were so-called national security operatives who jumped on and beat and shot at people who were just doing their jobs. So I take a very, very serious and dim view of this activity. It is something that Ghana has done very well over the years to, bring up our democratic credentials, and it's really sad to see this happening. And also, a cursory review of the short presentations by the three heads of security agencies. They're just contradicting themselves. Even this morning, ASP Azugu, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It tells you that they are attempting to mislead, to falsify, and they end up contradicting themselves. So, it's very sad that this is happening, and we need to take a very, very serious look at it and see what we can do to resolve these issues. But it does not bode well for our democracy.
Thank you very much for your time. And Dr. Rashid Haruna is an international relations expert and a former chief of staff. Nana Tudazi says he has so much confidence in the Emil Short Commission of Inquiry looking into the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election violence. On 3FM's Sunrise Morning Show, Nana Tudazi reiterated an earlier call for the IGP to resign.
The man who first petitioned the president following the Ayawaso West Wogon violence says he trusts the president's decision to set up the Emil Short Commission of Inquiry will yield results.
For the first time in the last, maybe 25 years, happened with the creation of this Commission of Inquiry.
Why?
And it is for the first time, when we have not had NDC and MPP appearing at the commission as parties, we are getting to know the truth. You understand? Assuming that the MPP, maybe I think we should thank NDC for deciding to boycott. So it's held back the MPP. And assuming that the MPP has said, we are going there as a party. MPP has said, we are going there as a party. It would have been a political football game again.
Coming to the studio with newspaper clippings of several quotes for the past 2 years, the former chief of staff said the Inspector General of Police must resign for not knowing the men who went to cause confusion at the Ayawaso West Wogon.
Knowing he must go.
For not knowing he must go.
Yes, you see, that because, you see, you imperil our security. If there had been policemen doing that, you would have had the IGP to go, not so.
Sure.
Now, if they were not policemen, as he says, and up to today he's not been able to identify them, you get me? Then that's a very good reason that you must ask him to go.
He insisted within 72 hours the criminals should have been identified by now.
Let's now focus on the State of the Nation address. An economist, Edward Boateng, says there is a lot of uncertainty on what to expect in the President's State of the Nation address to Parliament on Thursday. He spoke on Sunrise Morning Show on 3FM.
President Akufo-Addo will on Thursday present the State of the Nation address as he gives stewardship of his administration for the past 2 years. An economist, Edward Boateng, says claims by the government of a stable economy is not a reflection of the reality. He said a lot of things are being overlooked in the area of education and teachers' salaries.
For me, I have a lot of uncertainty.
Why?
I have a lot of uncertainty, not because I don't believe in the long-term measures or the long-term plans that the government has. I have a lot of uncertainty because I think some things are being overlooked. You know, education has been overlooked, not only by this government, but by previous governments. You know, and it's almost, the Mahama government built all these schools across the nation. But I call them, you're building webs without spiders.
Let's now focus on one of our major stories. And workers constructing the new Tema-Konsumbo rail line are protesting poor working conditions at Shire Hills in the Greater Accra region. They accused their employer, AFCOM, of breaching their contract by not paying their agreed wages.
No union! No union! No union!
The workers, numbering about 200, accused the management of intimidation, citing threats to prevent them from forming a union. But their major concern is management's failure to adhere to the contract terms.
TUC told us that they are supposed to mark us 27 working days. Up to now, they are marking us 22 working days, which is not allowed. The third parties in the company are Fidoki, Unique, Quick Job, Open Consult, and Jokode. 5 third-party agencies are working in AFCON right now, and they are cheating the workers, paying us 11 cedis, paying us 12 cedis. We cannot allow that. Once for the AP of Makasim, he has a third party here, and he's also stealing from us. We don't want him here. All the third parties must go.
But the compliance and liaison officer of AFCOM, William Atipu, discounted their claims.
If they have grievances, they should communicate the grievance through their contractors. Something management can do, why not? And today was a big surprise because we didn't expect this thing today.
You're still watching Midday Live now. A group calling itself Patriotic Muslim Front is raising concerns about the high fares being charged for this year's pilgrimage to Mecca. The coalition is calling for a reduction of the fares to ensure smooth pilgrimage. And President of the group, Haruna Mohammed, has been speaking to TV3.
If you take a look at the cost build-ups, what constitute or what makes that necessary for the board to increase have remained same. And when I say the factors, we have the external factors, which are the airlines, the accommodation, and some charges that the Saudi authority renders, for which reason could amount or compel a board to come out with a fare. And our checks, both international and local, reveals that those factors still remain constant. Nothing has changed, except that we were told in the meeting with the press, alongside with the agents, that they had a very good deal. Told by who? The chairman of the board, ICQ, that they had a very good deal this year, except that they had increased only the transport fare by $70. And this year, we were told that the amount was supposed to be 23,000 thereabout. And we asked basic questions. How could that amount to? Because when your factors remain constant, we are supposed to leave this country somewhere in September. And most shockingly, he came out and said, deadline is 30th April, when mostly it's around after fasting. And so how could you do this to Muslim Ummah? And we all know the difficult times we find ourselves in. And so we are pleading through his able vice president to intervene.
Let's now focus on elections in Nigeria. And the special representative of the UN Secretary General and head of the UN office in West Africa and the Sahel, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers, says while the UN is disappointed with the postponement of Nigeria's election, it has urged the country to maintain its high security before, during and after the elections on February 23. And speaking exclusively to TV3 from Abuja, Dr. Chambers says the UN has identified some flashpoints agreement with increased assistance to the Nigerian government for lasting peace in the country.
What is the sort of commitment you are expecting from them before, during, and after the elections? Not just because they have signed an accord. It's a different thing signing an accord on a paper, but it's a different thing as well with respect to attitude on the ground.
You know, people have to act responsibly. And when you are a leader of a party and you're running, and mind you, I mean, this is an election in which there are 73 presidential candidates. Incidentally, one of, in my view, contributory factor to the fact that they couldn't hold the elections on time. I mean, the number of candidates and the ballot paper and the number of papers that had to be printed was just humongous. But each person who is putting themselves up for leadership of this country, that is Nigeria, and leadership of, they want to be senators, they want to be members of House of Representatives, they want to be governors, have a responsibility also as leaders to behave in a certain way. And that includes behaving in a manner that leads to peaceful coexistence of Nigerian communities. There should be a demonstration. They should lead by example, so that in their conduct, in their words, they must avoid, obviously, hate speech and language that incites to violence. They must show tolerance and be people who can rally, bring all their citizens together, whether it's at the federal level or at the state level. And this is the message, not only that the UN, not only the UN gives, but all the other international partners who are here, who are friends of Nigeria, that's whether it's the ECOWAS, former presidents are here as friends of Nigeria and working together with the UN, with EU. The message is the same, that the leaders must lead by example. They must show high responsibility and put the supreme interests of their country over and above their personal interests.
Okay. Many thanks to you, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chamdas is the Special Representative of the United Nations General, Secretary General, and also the head of the UN Office for West Africa. There is so much hope for the country to remain one and peaceful. Komlak Luche, TV3 News, Abuja.
And the Commissioner for Macroeconomic Policy and Economic Research of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Kofi Konedo-Apreku, has reiterated the need for Nigeria to stick to better macroeconomic policies to better its ailing economy. And speaking exclusively to Komlak Luche from his base in Abuja, Dr. Apreku expressed disappointment at the postponement of Nigeria's elections.
Why Nigeria is important to me is obvious to everybody. Nigeria is the largest country in Africa. It has the largest economy. You're talking about 80% of the GDP of ECOWAS, the 15 member countries, is in the hands of Nigeria. So when Nigeria sneezes, everybody should catch a cold. And therefore, anything that ensures greater transparency, stability, democracy, that provides the platform for economic growth and development to take place, it helps us. It helps us tremendously. We are interested in Nigeria having an effective leader, particularly making choices and decisions that will impact favorably on the economy. So I'm interested in political stability, economic growth, improve welfare of the people of Nigeria. As I indicated last week when I was in Ghana, Nigeria has over 600 million. Just think about that for a second. And they constitute, as I indicated, 80% of the GDP in West Africa. So if they do well, particularly Ghana, we're a major beneficiary. We have good relationship with them. We can, in fact, have free access to the Nigerian market of 600 million people. And to me, that is very, very important.
Doc, how would you describe Nigeria's economy as it stands today?
Well, unfortunately, the last few years, because of the problems with oil, the economy has now grown. I think this year, the latest data that was released, initial data subject to changes later suggests less than 2% GDP growth. And the last year was about 1 point something. Ghana, we're growing 6% or more. And Ghana is one of the major growth poles in West Africa. We're doing very well. We can even do better. Countries like Cote d'Ivoire, they're doing 10% and more. Countries like Senegal, they're doing extremely well. Even our small neighbors like Benin, Togo, they seem to have found a formula for greater growth. So Nigeria is way behind. Their growth will spare greater growth in the region. And that is why I'm particularly concerned about Nigeria's progress and stability.
Well, many thanks to you, Dr. Kofi Konedo Apreko, who is now the Commissioner for Macroeconomic Policy and Economic Research at the ECOWAS Commission headquarters here in Abuja. Komla Kluche, TV3 News.
Still on elections in Nigeria, information reaching us indicates that the incumbent APC is holding a caucus meeting to re-strategize after the postponement of the elections. And currently in attendance is President Buhari and other party bigwigs. We have more details of this development in our subsequent bulletins.
All rise, all Nigerians come on to serve our fatherland.
You're still watching Midday Live. Coming up as the MTN video report. And today our concerned citizen reports from Bunturugo in the northern region on the state of a school building.
This is Kinkango DA Primary School. There's no windows and no doors. The school has not been renovated since it was being built. When you come to the school, it is a sorry sight. The student and the community members and chief elders of the community is now yearning for help because the student can no more learn. They can no more do anything, so they are calling out for help so that anybody who can come to their help should show up and relieve their situation. The school is 3 kilometers away from the district capital, Bunturugo.
You can also send your video report via WhatsApp 055-143-3044. You're still watching Midday Live. We'll have more news coming up shortly. Do stay with us. In business this afternoon, data released by the Bank of Ghana has shown that cost of opening a savings account in Ghana is still high. According to the data which captured 12 banks, 7 of the banks will require that you make an initial deposit of 50 cedis in a savings account.
The data named bank charges indicated that you would need a minimum initial deposit of 50 cedis to open a savings account in ADB Bank, Barclays Bank, Bank of Africa, Consolidated Bank, Energy Bank, and Fidelity Bank. The data also shows that only First Atlantic Bank out of 12 banks required between 0 to 100 cedis to open a savings account. Apart from First Atlantic Bank, which requires no initial deposit to open an account, Access Bank and Cal Bank will require that you make an initial deposit of 10 cedis. Next is FBN, which will require that you make an initial deposit of 20 Ghana cedis. The list is followed by EcoBank, of which you would have to make an initial deposit of 30 cedis to open a savings account. Additionally, you would also need a minimum initial deposit of 50 cedis to open a savings account in ADB Bank, Barclays, Bank of Africa. Almost all the banks mentioned do not charge you a maintenance fee for savings account except Fidelity cedis per month after exceeding 2 free withdrawals per month. If not, then no charges. According to the Bank of Ghana, the data was released to promote transparency in the provision of bank services.
Let's now focus on aviation, and air traffic between Ghana and Nigeria has quadrupled after the opening of the Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3. Peter Kwao Adato reports the increase in traffic volume, according to the Ghana Airport Company, is as a result of many Nigerians eager to see the new airport facility.
Gentlemen, believe it or not, this is Ghana Airport. Shame they catch me. I'm talking about state-of-the-art airport. I'm telling you. Look at... No, turn the other way around. No, look, just look at... Now, God, this doesn't do justice to the whole airport. But this is amazing. It's a shame. Shame.
The world-class Kotoka International Airport, the Terminal 3, appeared to be attracting attention since it was commissioned. It has been a major reason for this mode of travel by Nigerians. Records available to African World Airline and the Ghana Airports Company Limited (GACL) showed that traffic to and from Nigeria has quadrupled since the terminal was opened.
Because people hear about our airport and they just want to fly to Ghana. Yesterday I met with Awa and I was surprised to hear that after we moved services from Terminal 2 to Terminal 3, they quadrupled the passenger throughput in the first 3 months.
Sector Minister Joseph Kofi Ada is delighted at the development.
There are more people coming in. The confidence is on. They're happy about what's going on in Ghana. There are more people coming in, making what my deputy MC said, making a mass transportation mode. It's something that we're looking to do, which means that if we're able to do the economics right, we're able to get the fares lower and making it affordable. People may want to park their cars somewhere in Tamale and fly here rather than drive.
The $250 million Terminal 3 was designed in accordance with the latest International Air Transport Association requirement. The new terminal comprises 5 levels spread across an area of 4,500 meters square. The terminal features 6 boarding gates. It has the capacity to process 1,250 passengers at peak times with an over 700 car parking space.
Nigeria, is this fair? Look at Ghana Airport.
With all our money.
Shame on the looters. Shame.
Please, 2019, take it seriously.
Men and brethren, I need you to vote spiritually and physically. Spiritually vote at...
Who do we vote for?
Interesting developments over there. And that's it for business news. And OK Coral Group emerged winners of the 5th edition of Celebrations, striking off competition from Salters, Cord and Royalty to gain the bragging right and the 15,000 CD prize package.
It had been 10 weeks of a vocal battle with 10 choral groups on the 5th edition of Celebrations, and patrons would not miss the grand finale at the auditorium of the Charismatic Evangelistic Ministry. Tasked to perform Wahindi So by Class Atta, the 4 finalists appeared in turns to showcase their vocal talent. The groups in the second round had to perform their preferred songs, and the Aguna Swedro group, OK Choral, got patrons on their feet. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for.
Now is the time.
Salters placed fourth and were presented with a cash prize of 5,000 Ghana cedis.
Third position goes to God.
Cord came third, walking away with a cash prize of 8,000 cedis and a hamper, while Royalty received a cash prize of 10,000 Ghana cedis and a hamper for placing second.
They sang, they danced, the winners for celebrations. Okay!
The OK car took away 15,000 cedis and the bragging rights as Ghana's outstanding choral group.
We are very, very, very happy. From the 4th week, 5th, 6th, 7th, we started experiencing good things that taught us we can win this competition. And we are not shocked we are the winners. We thank God for what He has done for us.
General Manager of Operations and Shared Services at Media General in Fedafo was full of excitement.
It's been so exciting. I personally enjoyed myself. If you look at the difference between the old performances and this season, you could see clearly that the standards are very high. And so any of the teams could have won actually. But I think OK did well. Their teamwork, and in all, I think it's been a very good race.
Congratulations to OK. And that's it for Midday Live. Thanks so much for watching. I am Portia Gabo. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Good afternoon.